It's 6 a.m. at a remote Mirzapur farmhouse, and four friends are desperate to hit the gas. They are throwing luggage into their car with a frantic energy that suggests they are running out of time. But as they try to flee, they find the road blocked by a crowd of villagers. Everyone is gathered around a nearby stone well that has inexplicably run bone dry overnight. The villagers are at the bottom of the dry shaft, hoisting up two waterlogged corpses. Sudhir and Prakash move closer to see the faces of the dead. They stop in their tracks. These dead men are the exact same figures that had been hunting them through a series of violent nightmares just hours before. To understand how these four friends were targeted by the dead, we have to look at the 48 hours leading up to this discovery, the precise anatomy of a localized curse. The timeline begins Friday afternoon. The group leaves behind the modern safety of Noida, driving toward the rural outskirts of Mirzapur for a weekend getaway. As the city thins out into dense forest, they pass a massive, ancient banyan tree. Prakash spots a soaking wet boy sitting among the roots, despite the dry, dusty air of the forest road. He chooses to ignore it. Upon arriving at the farmhouse, Gautam introduces the group to the local history. He points out the deep well at the edge of the property and the legend attached to it. The well is notorious for its depth. Local lore claims that a man once drowned there, and the water was so deep and fast-moving that his body was never recovered. The four friends laugh off the story. They treat the history of a missing person as campfire entertainment, a way to add a bit of atmosphere to their party. By treating the legend as a joke, the group dismissed the primary warning signs of the environment. This skepticism blinded them to the physical anomalies already manifesting around the house, leaving them unaware that the haunting had entered its active phase. The perimeter of the house was breached almost immediately. Late that night, while working in the kitchen, Prakash caught sight of shifting figures moving through the shadows outside the window. His friends dismissed the sighting as paranoia, maintaining a shield of skepticism that kept them from investigating further. Soon, the anomalies moved indoors. Alone in his room, Prakash heard the distinct, rapid dripping of water hitting a surface inside his bathroom. He found the bathroom completely empty. The sound of a heavy leak was unmistakable, yet the bucket, the floor, and the faucet were bone dry. Later that night, Sudhir stepped out of his room and found a trail of wet footprints stamped onto the floorboards. He noted the direction of the tracks. They moved in a straight line toward the front door, leading out of the house. But at 5 a.m., Gautam made a different discovery, a fresh set of wet footprints on the same floor, this time leading into the house. These conflicting paths indicate the coordinated surveillance operation. The entities were not just wandering, they were mapping the interior, narrowing the distance between the well and the victims. Once the physical layout was secured, the entities escalated the attack directly into the victim's subconscious. Prakash fell into a nightmare where two soaking wet men grabbed his arms. He could feel the cold as they dragged him across the floorboards toward the edge of the well. He woke up to find Sudhir standing in his doorway, pale. Sudhir had just experienced the same nightmare, but as a witness, watching from the hallway as the wet figures pulled Prakash into the dark. Two separate minds generating the same synchronized hyper-specific terror suggests an external transmission. The haunting had bypassed physical locks to gain direct access to their minds. This brings us back to the present moment at the edge of the well, where the villagers have finished pulling the bodies from the mud. The nightmares were a forced reenactment of the drowning, a signal broadcasted by the very corpses now lying at their feet. The group doesn't wait for the police. They flee Mirzapur immediately, putting hundreds of miles between themselves and the farmhouse in an attempt to outrun the memory of the well. But back in the safety of Noida, in the silence of his own bedroom, Prakash hears a whisper from the darkness, "You won't escape next time." Unnatural deaths leave geographic markers, but once a spirit locks onto a victim's mind, distance becomes irrelevant. You can flee the house, but the location of the haunting is no longer tied to the ground.